Now, I want to introduce we have two speakers for you now, and you're going to find them really interesting and informative. Tom Early has been 14 years with Enterprise Ireland, and I think is a really helpful guy, despite the fact that he's a dub. He is now head of funding and scaling solutions. And while that might seem he's giving out money, he is actually the key guy in the advisory role, a public sector perhaps equivalent of good bodies. They are responsible for a total portfolio of 3,600 investments with an investment pot of 433. And as you heard from entrepreneurs who have dealt with Enterprise Ireland, they have a very, very positive story to tell. Okay, so to tell you what you need to do to get your ducks in a row, over to Tom Early. Thank you.
I have a feeling I'm going to knock this water everywhere. So, look, good afternoon, and thank you for the introduction. So my name is Tom Early, and I lead the Funding and Scaling Solutions team within Enterprise Ireland. It's a new team that we set up this year, the goal of which is to work with our client companies to help them access funding to continue and to grow their scaling journey. So it's to do it in a rapid and sustainable way. So I'm going to speak to you about Enterprise Ireland, which actually I don't think I need to, given the amount of times that we were mentioned this morning, which is great. But it's about all the different supports that we have access to and that we provide to companies. And really, it's telling you how to access these both financial and non-financial supports. So, for those of you that don't know about Enterprise Ireland, we're a government agency that works with a wide range of manufacturing and internationally traded services companies, and we work right across the life cycle, from pre-startup all the way through to large manufacturing. Now, our primary purpose is to work with companies to help them grow and expand, right, to make them world-class leaders so that they can compete on the international stage. Okay? Doing this increases their sales at these companies, which means they hire more people, and therefore we increase the prosperity to Ireland. And I suppose, as the fact that we are a small, open economy, it does mean that we have to get these companies to internationalize as quickly as possible. So let's see, how are we doing? Okay, by the end of 2011, we had over 207,000 people employed in Enterprise Ireland companies, or Enterprise Ireland supported companies. So that was over 20,000 new jobs created in that year. And it was a net increase of 12,000 employees, because unfortunately people did lose their jobs. But 68% of those jobs that were created were actually outside and within the regions. So of that client base, and over the last decade, we have seen the exports increase every year. Last year, it actually increased by 12%. So our client companies now have exports worth 27 billion, which is fantastic given the size of our economy. So what does the future look like? Well, despite all the headwinds we have set in our new strategy that was 22, 23, 24, leading in a changing world, some very ambitious targets for ourselves. So 45,000 new jobs are to be created, and our exports for our target companies, we've set it at 30 billion by the end of the 3 years. Business is being transformed by a range of different factors. Climate change, there's an acceleration in the adoption of new technologies, and there's multiple changing terms in terms of all the globalization, the various different crises that are going on. And okay, these are presenting quite a lot of challenges for our companies, but that's just another way to say that there's a lot of opportunities. So everything that we're doing is to try and help companies respond to these new changes so that they can turn them into an opportunity. Now, there's 5 key ambitions for us in terms of what it is that underpins our strategy. Okay, so the first one, export-focused Irish enterprises delivering growth across all regions. So 68% of the new jobs that were created. We've had quite a number of new startups that have started outside of Dublin, so we're really focused on developing the regions. If I look then at the second one, Ireland as a world-leading location to start and scale businesses. Like, we have an awful lot of supports aimed directly at companies to help them start and grow internationally. But it's not just going straight for the entrepreneurs and straight for the companies themselves. We actually spend a lot of time in trying to develop the ecosystem and seed the ecosystem. So we work with the universities to help spin out new technologies into companies. We also work with the universities to put client companies into them to actually develop their research and innovation capability. We develop entrepreneurs themselves. With the New Frontiers program is a prime example. These are the next generation of startups. We provide a lot of funding directly into companies, and in fact, we've been recognized globally quite a few years in the running as one of the leading investors by deal count investing in startups. And I suppose a lot of you will have heard recently, we've just launched our new pre-seed support fund. It's 100,000 investment directly into companies. It's replacing our competitive start fund. We listened to the market, we asked them what they wanted, and we've changed it. So no longer is it ordinary shares for 50,000, 10%. We're actually not even valuing the businesses at this stage. It's just a straightforward conversion discount. But not only do we invest, again, directly in these companies, but also ecosystems. So we are a funder of funds. So we put money into seed funds. Our latest one that we're in the process, and we're doing it in partnership with ISIV and with the EIF, it's the 90 million Irish Innovation Seed Fund. Anyway, to get back to our ambitions, Irish enterprises achieving competitive advantage through customer-led innovation and digitization. It's why we have developed so many supports to help our clients develop their strategy towards digitization and then to provide supports in terms of actually achieving that. Irish enterprises leading globally on sustainability and achieving climate action targets. Ireland has a climate action target to reduce enterprise emissions by 35% by 2030. So we have to take a lot of action now within our companies, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that further on. And then, of course, last one is a very much a target for ourselves in terms of Enterprise Ireland being the world-class provider of services and supports to our companies. Okay. I suppose the one thing I would like everyone to remember, though, is that we are a development agency. Everything we do is to leverage a change in behavior within our companies, within the ecosystem, to help our companies grow and expand internationally. So yeah, we provide funding and grants, free money, for want of a better word, to do innovation. We provide it to make our companies more competitive. We provide grants for R&D. But actually, I think where an awful lot of our value to our client companies comes in is actually in and around the non-financial supports. So we have client management development programs that's specifically aimed at developing the ambition and the capability of our client companies. And you've heard it from an awful lot of the funders up here this evening or this morning. They are all talking about the ambition of the promoters. And so we have programs that we've partnered with Harvard, Stanford, Leadership for Growth programs. I myself do an awful lot of programs around strategic finance, equity masterclasses, webinars, so on and so forth. And of course, one of the biggest advantages to the non-financial supports is access to our overseas offices. We have 40 overseas offices. We have people on the ground that are able to help companies with their market entry strategy and actually help them win business. The reality is we have an awful lot of supports, and I'm going to confess to you, I've been working in Enterprise Ireland for 14 years. I still don't know all the levels of supports that we have there. What I will say to you is, if you come to Enterprise Ireland and say, oh, what grants do you have for me? I mean, that's the wrong conversation to begin with. What you need to do, and always start from the premises, what is your strategy to grow and expand your business? You engage with us, we can help you in developing that strategy. And then we will identify the supports that you need rather than the ones you think you want. Okay? But I'm just going to try and pick out some of the key activities that we've been doing over the last while. So in terms of helping companies scale their businesses and to create more scale-ups, and particularly from my own point of view, to help them remain Irish and not allow founders to sell out on the scaling journey too early. Enterprise Ireland set up the Funding and Scaling Solutions unit this year, and I lead that. And how we do that, we want to make sure that our clients are able to access funding to be able to allow them to continue that scaling journey and to do it in a rapid and sustainable way. Now, there's a two-pronged approach to this. One is very much at a macro level, which is where we engage with the wider ecosystem. We map out the ecosystem and we understand where, if any, there are gaps within it, and then how we can, what initiatives we can bring into place to replace those. And the other is that we engage directly with our client companies. So that engagement can fall to something as simple discussing their strategy and their plans and their funding gap. It could, I go through the various different sources of finance out there, everything from equity, private equity, venture capital, debt, venture debt, explaining it all to companies and helping them understand what it will mean for their various different growth models. Part of that will be they will get term sheets and they will ask for my opinion on them. I'll review pitch decks, but most importantly, I make sure that they know how to engage with funders when they actually go, so they have a meaningful conversation. So I would always say, don't have those early conversations with VCs. I would say make sure when you actually go forward, you're putting your best foot forward. So that just gives you a flavour for in terms of what my area is doing. The other big thing that we're doing is around promoting diversity. And it's a huge priority for us in Enterprise Ireland. So we have a Women in Business strategy, and it's focused on increasing women starting, growing, and leading Irish enterprises. Right? Why? This allows us to harness the full talent, as in us, Ireland Inc., harness the full talent and expertise of a diverse population. Again, our approach here is both supporting individual women entrepreneurs, but also bringing about longer-term sustainable change into the ecosystem. So when I look at it on an individual basis, most recent initiative that comes to mind is that we collaborated with the IVCA in terms of making sure that women entrepreneurs see VCs as a viable funding source. So we put in place a program of events, workshops, pitch panels, investor-ready training, and mentorships. And actually tonight we're even running a mentoring or a networking event with the IVCA in Stevens Green, again, where we're putting women entrepreneurs in a room with VCs that want to invest in women startups. And if I look at it more on the macro level, a lot of the stuff that we're doing, so if you look at our recent call for seed and venture capital, where we're funding the venture capitalists out there, a lot of the applicants had to talk about their strategy, about who are there for making the decisions within the investment decisions within their teams, and that went towards actually helping us select who were the VC funds that we are going to be investing on. Let's be clear, when you set a target or when you set a reporting line and you ask people to look at something, it helps them focus on it. And so everything that we're doing is asking that question, asking people to do it. We know it works because we did it ourselves. It was about 12 years ago, I think it was about 7% of our HPSUs would have been women founders involved. As at the end of last year, 29% of our HPSUs or startups have women founders involved. In fact, I think Sifted last year said that we were the #1 VC by deal count. And by the way, I don't like to refer to Enterprise Ireland as a VC, but they called us the #1 VC by deal count into women startups, okay, over the last 5 years. So We know setting those targets and working is one of the things that we are focused in on. Just as well to talk about how we respond to the crises that are out there in the market and the macroeconomic environments. Lately, the latest one that we've done is the Ukraine Crisis Fund, and that's to support those companies that have been impacted directly or indirectly because of what is going on in Ukraine. In terms of, there's two streams to it. One stream is a liquidity support of over 500,000, 250,000 of it being grant, to be provided to companies that meet all our criteria. The other stream is a subsidy to help companies that are impacted by the increase in the energy costs. And I always think that one of the best supports that we have there is in relation to the grant supports to help companies actually identify longer-term strategic plans for themselves as to how they are going to respond to the crisis. In terms of sustainability and climate, because this is a big one, and for anybody who needs proof the pudding is in the eating, the energy crisis that's there at the moment is definitely highlighting that competitiveness risk. What we are seeing when we look at this is decarbonisation and environmental sustainability are core to competitiveness and growth in export markets. And that's why we have developed a number of supports to help these companies at their various different stages on the decarbonisation and sustainability journey. And they range from initial planning to capability building to capital investment and research and innovation. So look, I'm going to leave it there today. I just wanted to say thank you very much for listening to me. And if you want more information, please check out our website. Thank you.